Hello, how you doing? It's Phil Thatch, and I am at the campus of the University of Tennessee, where I'll be doing some graduation pictures of my daughter and her husband. So right now we're at the Magnolia dorm area where she stayed when she was a freshman, and we're going to get started. All right, so we are starting out right there in front of the Magnolia dorm where Casey stayed when she was a freshman. And I'm not going to give you the shutter speed and the ISO in all these pictures. There's a lot to go through. I'm going to tell you the lens. This is the 70-200 wide open at 2.8, and this is 95 millimeters. Here's a more up close shot of her in front of the door to the Magnolia dorm. This is f2.8 and 102 millimeters. And this one is 116 millimeters, even more up close, still wide open at 2.8. Here's one of Casey in front of the Magnolia dorm doorway at 135 millimeters, just kind of a head and shoulder shot. And normally I like to have the head up here in a shot, but I wanted to get the top of this door frame. So that's why she's positioned kind of different than I would normally have someone. This is 135 millimeters. This one's 112 millimeters, a little bit more of Casey and a little bit more of the doorway, still at 2.8. I got shots of my daughter in front of her dorm door, and now my son-in-law is going to go over here to this dorm door. And now we're over at Magnolia, which is the dorm that's right next door to Dogwood. And this is where Ian stayed when he was a freshman. This is 135 millimeters, really harsh light. It was tricky today, wide open at 2.8, and 102 millimeters at 2.8, 165 millimeters at 2.8. Now we're in the courtyard that's kind of in between those two dorm rooms, and this shot is 120 millimeters at 2.8, and they're in the shade here, so I like this much better. This one is 100 millimeters, very similar area. I think it's one bench closer to that wall behind them, and this one's also 2.8. This one is 92 millimeters at 2.8, with Casey looking up at Ian. Now we're in one of the dining halls. We just stopped by here to go to the restroom, and Casey had written an article that was in this newspaper, so she held it up, and I made a shot of her at 92 millimeters. Okay, so we're making our way around campus. Now we're on the pedestrian walkway. By the way, I'm using the Z8 and the F-mount 70-200 f2.8 GVR2 for all of these. Now we're on the pedestrian walkway, and this is 165 millimeters at 2.8. Another shot with the same settings, 165 at 2.8. I think I like the second pose better. This one is 200 millimeters at 2.8. I really like this shot. I wish I had been a little bit lower. I think I'm standing up for this one. And I cropped all of these to 4x5 because that looks better on Instagram, which is where Casey planned on using these. But this one, I cropped it to 16x7, so I didn't cut any of the width off, and I cut some of the top and bottom off on this 200 millimeter shot of the pedestrian walkway. And for me, I like to look at these on a 32-inch computer monitor. For me, I like this sort of a crop better than this sort of a crop. But my daughter, who hired me or commanded me to do this, was going to use these on Instagram. So most of my crops are 4x5 instead of 16x7. We're still on the pedestrian walkway, but Heather has some posing ideas. She's getting them set up. I think she's going to have them walk towards me while I make shots. Heather had some composition ideas, and she had them walk away from me while holding their gown and sashes over their shoulders. Thought it turned out pretty cool. This is 130 millimeters at 2.8. And this one is 92 millimeters at 2.8 of them walking up the pedestrian walkway with their graduation garb, not wearing it, just carrying it. This one is in that same session, but this is 185 millimeters. All these are 2.8. I like that looking back at me shot. So right up here is a vent with lots of steam coming through it, probably sewage. But anyway, it looks cool, so we're gonna make a picture. Now we're over by the area where the steam is coming up out of the vents in the ground. And I thought it looked cool to have a free smoke effect. I don't think my daughter liked these shots as much. She didn't use any of these in her social media post. This is 160 millimeters at f2.8, and this one is 160 millimeters at f2.8. Do some sort of a victory up in the air sort of thing. And I had them act all crazy. This one's 135 millimeters at 2.8, and you can see the smoke or steam, whatever it is. They continued to act crazy. This one's 135 millimeters at 2.8 and more crazy acting at 135 millimeters and 2.8. My daughter likes to do these, almost looks like a Charlie's Angel sort of thing where you lean back and you have it's not a pistol, it's just your fingers, but she likes that pose. This is 185 millimeters at f2.8.
Like you can frame her rule of thirds. There's a lot of really pretty dapple light on the ground.
Like way over there by the brick wall?
No, like this, have her lean up against this side
Of
this tree right in front of us, this big board.
And Heather spotted this beautiful tree with the specular highlights in the background and talked me into making a photograph of them over here at this tree. So I made a couple of shots. This one I did horizontally at 98 millimeters, 2.8. And this one I shot vertically at 135 millimeters and 2.8. And my daughter did use this one, so that worked out nice. Okay, so we're still hanging out on the pedestrian walkway. I'm gonna have them walk towards me and smile and giggle while I make compression shots with the 200. Keep coming. Keep coming. And now we're back on the pedestrian walkway, but this is the section of the pedestrian walkway that is wide. It's as wide as a 4-lane highway, just about, at least a 2-lane highway with a turn lane. This is a compression shot, 200 millimeters, wide open at 2.8 with the 70-200 f2.8G VR2 F-mount lens adapted to the Z8 using the FTZ2 adapter. The top of the hill has this weird artwork, and I would almost prefer that it not be there, but it's there, so it's in the shot. Here's another shot in that sequence, kind of dappled light, and my daughter's looking up right as the light hit her, so that was cool. This is another compression shot, 200 millimeters f2.8. And this one I cropped to 4x5 of them giggling, 200 millimeters, 2.8. These last ones were 16x9. And this is one where they stopped and he gave her a kiss on the forehead. This is another 200 millimeter shot. I cropped this one to 16x9 and I'm still wide open at 2.8. That old lens, I've had it 10 years, but it still is magnificent. Now this one, they're much closer to me, only 82 millimeters for this one, still wide open at 2.8. We are at an archway at some hall. I don't know, what's this place called? Melrose Place Hall. Place Hall. Archway right here from the other direction. It has Casey and the archway in shade. There is some light behind her, so we'll see how that looks. And there's a tree hanging down too in the foreground, which might be okay. This was the hardest shot of the day. The light was terrible. She's horribly backlit. I managed to make it look like she's not terribly backlit in my edit. And I worked on this for a long time with the 70-200, and every shot was out of focus. The camera just would not nail focus. The focus point was on her face, but it was missing. And so then I went and I put the 50 millimeter 1.8, the Z 50 millimeter 1.8S lens on there, and most of the shots with it were off. But this one was sharp, and I really worked hard editing this shot. And it's one of my favorites of the day, wide open at 1.8 on the Z 50 millimeter 1.8S lens. Really love this shot. Had these arches, perfectly symmetrical. Everything is looking just right. I put a little radial gradient on it to make sure the brightest thing in the picture is my daughter, or maybe the background behind my daughter. And I also made a shot like this with Ian. I didn't do as good a job with this edit, I don't think. This one's also 50 millimeters wide open at 1.8 there at Melrose Hall, I think is what they called this. I was going to take a picture of them in their graduation gowns standing on the university seal, but lots of people were doing the same thing. So there was a line, but I went ahead and made this shot. This is with the 50 millimeter wide open at 1.8 on the pedestrian walkway, but not standing on the seal. Right over here is the greatest stadium in the world. And I'm trying to get a picture of the graduates with the stadium in the background. And then we left the pedestrian walkway and went over towards the part of the campus where most of my daughter's classes were. And when we headed that way, we stopped at Peyton Manning Pass, which has a nice view of the front of Neyland Stadium. And I made this shot. I'm back to the 70-200 lens now. This is 95 millimeters f8. I stopped it down to f8 so you could read Neyland Stadium behind them. Here's another shot. This one's 110 millimeters at f8 on Peyton Manning Pass. What a name for a little road. And there's the stadium in the background. And this one is at 78 millimeters of just my daughter with the stadium in the background, also f8. What those shots were of is the torchbearer, which maybe you can see in the shot right now. And now we've gone over to the torchbearer. You can see he's got the torch. This flame burns all the time. And this is 70 millimeters at f2.8 with my daughter there, just up the street from Peyton Manning Pass. And now here's my daughter and her husband, 82 millimeter shot at f2.8 with the torchbearer. And now just Ian with the torchbearer, 86 millimeter shot at f2.8. Now we're working here on this brick walkway, which goes to the part of the college where my daughter's classes mostly are. Okay, do that thing. And now we're heading over to the part of the campus where most of my daughter's classes were, and I liked this little brick walkway. Over to the left-hand side of this brick walkway were a bunch of tents where they had all sorts of events for the football game that happened the day before, the orange and white game. I had to make sure and not get those in the shot because I didn't think they were very pretty. But everything else was beautiful, and this is a 102 millimeters f2.8, very backlit, a lot of shadow pulling to make this look anywhere near presentable. And let's see, here's another shot. This one's a 102 millimeters in that same area. All these are 2.8. And this one is 70 millimeters f2.8 in that same area. This one I've cropped to 16:9, where these others I made 4:5. Now this one's 160 millimeters, looking straight down the brick road there. Lots of bokeh in the background of this one, 160 millimeters wide open at 2.8. And another one, this one's 165 millimeters. Just look at the amazing quality of the out of focus background in this shot with that 70-200 2.8 lens. And now we're heading back to the seal, and now we're going the opposite direction on the brick walkway. And now she's got harsh light on her. I made a few shots. This one's 120 millimeters at 2.8, and this one is 95 millimeters at 2.8. There were shadows. I wish I had a reflector so I could have Heather stand out of frame and reflect light up onto Casey so she didn't have shadows. But in this one, I just had her lean her head back. 95 millimeters, 2.8. I had her looking up and doing all sorts of weird poses in this one. This is 116 millimeters, still wide open at 2.8. And now I have Ian posing with Casey. This is 120 millimeters at 2.8, still in that same area. We had them walk towards me wearing their gowns and giggling as they looked at each other. This is a technique that Heather and I learned from the photographer who photographed our wedding. She would have Heather and I walk towards her and giggle and laugh. And some of the pictures turn out really cool when you do that. This is 200 millimeters f2.8. This one is 185 millimeters f2.8 as they're walking down the brick road. And I love this one. My daughter loved this one too. She used this on her social media post. This one's 175 millimeters f2.8. So thanks, Melanie Farmer Photography, for teaching us this technique. And on the way back to the seal, we stopped by Neyland Stadium and I made another shot. This one's 160 millimeters f13 to try to have the Neyland Stadium sign somewhat in focus, and it's still pretty out of focus. We're back at the torchbearer trying to get a shot from a different direction. And we did a couple more torchbearer shots, this time from the other direction. And this one's 98 millimeters f2.8, and this one is 100 millimeters f2.8. All right, now this is the seal of the University of Tennessee that you're not supposed to stand on until you graduate. So they are ready because they're about to graduate. And now we have made it back to the seal. I'm back to using the 50 millimeter 1.8 Z mount lens. I've got it stopped down to f5 to try to have the seal in focus, but a lot of people have thrown confetti, so there's confetti all over the seal, so that's not good. I would rather have had the seal with nothing on it. But this is 50 millimeters f5, Here's just Casey on the seal, 50 millimeters f5. Just Ian on the seal. This one's 50 millimeters f5. Okay, go. That's good. And how about a little dipping smooch on the seal? This is the one that my daughter shared on social media, 50 millimeters f5. And I like this one too, kind of after the smooch where they're smiling at each other. This one's also 50 millimeters f5. In various places around the campus, they have these smoky dogs, which is one of Tennessee's mascots. And this one has good light on it. So we're going to get a picture of Casey on the smoky. They have these Smoky dogs all over campus. I think they're on Smoky 11 now, and for each retired Smoky, they get a statue. And this one's near the Student Union. I'm still using the 50 millimeter lens, and I'm at 50 millimeters f2.5 for this shot. And this one's also 50 millimeters f2.5 with Ian in the picture as well. Now we are inside the Student Union. This is kind of a dining area in the Student Union, and I'm still using the 50 millimeter f1.8 S-line lens, Z-mount lens. This is wide open at 1.8. This is the Rocky Top hallway of the Student Union.
Ian done here?
Stunt coordinator.
Okay, we're good.
Okay, proceed. Are y'all looking at each other and back at me? Hug that orange line. Look at me. Look at me both. Smile and giggles. Now there's a hallway that kind of goes between different sections of the Student Union, and they've got the lyrics to Rocky Top hanging from the ceiling, and I always love this, and these are the best pictures I've made there. I used the 50 millimeter 1.8. I've got it stopped down to 2.5, and Heather helped get their gowns situated that they could carry over their shoulder. This is 50 millimeters 2.5. This is 50 millimeters 2.5 of them walking and giggling. And now they're walking the other direction, still 50 millimeters, still 2.5. And another 50 millimeter 2.5 shot with them looking back at us. Just love the way these turned out. And one last shot of them walking down the hallway with the words to Rocky Top above them. Okay, so we're up here on the second floor of the Student Union now, and I've made a lot of pictures of Casey and Ian with the 70-200 2.8. I made pictures of them here on this staircase, both from the bottom and looking up the staircase. Made some pictures of them over here against this railing, and pictures of them with this. It's actually an entrance to a bathroom, but it's got some orange tile that was cool. We broke into this little room over here, which was actually open. And we propped the door open with our shoes, made a picture of them with this power tee, and finally made a picture of them on this couch right here with a picture of the stadium in the background. So a lot of cool shots from this one area of the Student Union at UT. Now we're on the staircase, the beautiful staircase inside the Student Union. I'm back to using the 70-200 f-mount lens, 2.8 lens. This is 102 millimeters f2.8. And now I'm at the top of the stairs looking down at Casey and Ian. This is 110 millimeters f2.8. This one's 122 millimeters f2.8. You can see nobody's in the Student Union. It's a Sunday, and the Student Union was almost empty. And right here is their gowns laying on some of the furniture. Here's Ian on the stairs, and Casey asked me if I wanted her to get out of the picture, but I thought it looked cool with her looking at him and him looking at the camera. This is 82 millimeters, wide open at 2.8. And now here's a close-up. This one's 200 millimeters, standing in the exact same spot as this last shot, 200 millimeters, 2.8. Now he's on the other side, hanging on the railing with his feet off the ground, 102 millimeters, f2.8. I like the reflections in the glass on this staircase. Now this is against the railing. That's an entrance to a bathroom behind them, but I like the orange, and I'm standing on the staircase making this picture. This is 112 millimeters, 2.8. This is in that little vestibule entrance to a room. This is 175 millimeters, f2.8. Now they're leaning against the railing of the second floor. This is a glass light fixture thing, huge, that's in the background. There's actually an open area where you can look up at this from the first floor, but it's actually even with the second floor. This is a compression shot, 200 millimeters wide open at 2.8. Casey's in focus, Ian's out of focus, and everything else is way out of focus. Here's Casey on the orange and gray couch with the photograph of Neyland Stadium in checkerboard form in the background, 70 millimeters, 2.8. And now Ian has joined Casey on the couch. This is 78 millimeters, f2.8. Casey and Ian both wanted a picture with this bridge that says University of Tennessee in the background. And yesterday was the orange and white game at Neyland Stadium. And so we noticed that there was a cleanup crew that was cleaning up the stadium after yesterday's game. So all the gates were open, or at least gate 21 was open. So I'm not sure exactly what happened, but after we made photographs with the bridge in the background, we somehow got some really cool pictures at a location that may or may not be behind me right now. Let's take a look. Now we're outside making a photograph of the bridge that goes across the road there. That's the student union where we were on the left-hand side here. And behind me is Neyland Stadium. This is 70 millimeters and I stopped it down to 6.3. So the University of Tennessee would be in focus on the bridge. And here's the same shot of Ian, also 70 millimeters and 6.3. Now we are inside the stadium. Oh my goodness. They let us go in for just a moment. We went through a portal and got the shot lined up where the VOLS sign was behind them. I shot this at f6.3, 100 millimeters. This one's also f6.3, but it's 70 millimeters. And here's the hand gesture that spells out VOL that all the UT students and athletes do. And this one is 140 millimeters f6.3. That stadium seats over 100,000 and it's pretty empty the day after the game. But on game day, that thing is full, full, full. Okay, so Ian went to the Tickle College of Engineering. So I've got him getting set up here on this wall, and I'm gonna see if I can get a shot of him. Took some at 2.8. Now I'm gonna take some more at 5.6. I've got exposure compensation at minus 1.3 stops to try to keep his shirt from blowing out. Now we're over at the section of campus where a lot of Ian's classes were, and I took this picture of him on the sign for the Tickle College of Engineering. This is 86 millimeters f5.6. This one's 92 millimeters f5.6. I just focused on the word engineering because the whole thing makes Ian look tiny, but above just the word engineering, he kind of fills the frame a little bit more. 92 millimeters f5.6 for this one. And now we're at this engineering complex where he had a number of classes. And I don't know if you can see the orange reflected in this window? That's me. We're on a grass hill and he's standing down the hill from me just a little bit. And I'm laid back trying to get this shot. This is the first shot of the day that's with my 24-70 f-mount lens, the 24-70 f2.8G, the non-VR version. And this is 34 millimeters f5.6. This one is 70 millimeters f10, still laying in the grass, am I, for this shot. Okay, so this bridge here near the engineering part of the campus, Ian says it was designed by students, and I'm gonna get a shot of him, kind of a compression shot, I think, maybe, with the 70-200 standing on the bridge. So we'll see how that goes. Now we're over on the bridge that was designed by UT students. This is a 200 millimeter shot. I'm using the 70-200 again, wide open at 2.8. And when I did their senior pictures in high school, I guess these are their senior pictures in college, I had Ian jump. And I said, hey, can you still jump? And he said, I sure can. And we made this shot. This one is 145 millimeters. I had the foot, there's a tripod foot on the 70-200, and I had it laying on the ground. And he did this jump, and I caught him at the highest point in the jump. 145 millimeters f2.8. Pretty cool. I thought it turned out real good. Now we're inside one of the buildings in the engineering part of campus, and I thought these stairs were just super cool looking. And I had Ian stand there and I made this shot of him with the 70-200. This is 92 millimeters f2.8. So now we're here at Ayers Hall. Whenever game day comes to UT, they always set up right around here. That's Ayers Hall in the background. And you should be able to see the checkerboards at the top of the building, which is kind of cool. And we're going to get a shot of Mr. and Mrs. Burns right here in the courtyard. And now that's Aries Hall in the background. This is where game day, when game day comes to UT, they do the television broadcast from this area. This is using the 24-70 again. This is 24 millimeters f4. And here's another shot much closer. You can see this doorway way back here behind them. Now we're right beside it. And this is 27 millimeters f4 using the 24-70 f2.8G. What a day we had on the campus of the University of Tennessee. All right, well, that has been a full day of shooting. We started at 10 o'clock this morning, and it's now about 4:15, and our parking place is on one side of the campus, and we are presently on the other side of the campus. So what we did was we just left the girls here, and Ian and I are going to walk all the way across the campus and get the car, and then come pick up the girls. We hope you enjoyed this crazy senior college portrait session, and if you did, hit thumbs up. If you want to see some more stuff like this, subscribe and hit the bell. And as always, I look forward to seeing you in my next video, but it will be completely different than this. Say bye, Mr. Burns. Bye.